Hello and welcome to Uncensored Conservatism. This is episode number 284. So, USA Today ran an opinion piece by one of their columnists, a young lady by the name of Sarah Pequeno, decrying the Trump administration's response to the violence in Los Angeles amidst the ICE detentions. Now, I have no idea who this girl is until I read this editorial, but she sure is a mouthpiece of the left when it comes to immigration. The article is titled, Trump supporters, this is what you're cheering as his deportation scheme unfolds. I guess she's trying to change the minds of Trump supporters. So the first paragraph sets the tone, where she uses the well-worn line, the protests are mostly peaceful. Soon thereafter, she asserts that ICE officials are indiscriminately targeting immigrants, hence the protesters are justified in their anger. She then goes on in her argument starting with states' rights, saying that it's fine for states to, regulate abortion, but not fine for states to regulate their own protests. In fact, Pequeno likes the fact that people are protesting and standing up for their neighbors, as she frames it, because, illegal immigrants, they contribute to the community. And then she says the federal government is invading a sovereign state. Well, first, Ms. Pequeno apparently failed to read the Constitution and this thing called the Supremacy Clause, because those ICE people are enforcing existing federal law, which, guess what? They're supreme over the laws or the policies of a state like California. And what if those sovereign state leaders fail to act? What if a local 2-bit mayor with low IQ refuses to act? What if a police chief says that they're overwhelmed and can't handle the protests? And why do these mostly peaceful protesters have to burn cars, loot stores, and pelt law enforcement agents with bricks and concrete? Nope. The federal government nips that shit in the bud before you get to what Minneapolis became in 2020 with this weirdo as a governor. This isn't about states' rights, honey. This is about keeping the peace, because your so-called sovereign state refuses to do so. And this cracks me up. Apparently the National Guard and Marines are ill-equipped to handle crowd control. And are these morons even aware that the Marines guard every foreign embassy in the world, even in places more violent than Los Angeles today? Her second point is that law-abiding immigrants are being targeted. Not really. The most recent arrests in LA were judicial warrants issued by a federal judge against people with criminal records like Rolando Venerizio Enriquez of Philippines, who was arrested for sexual penetration with a foreign object and attempt to rape. Or how about this guy, Lionel Sanchez Laguna of Mexico, who was convicted of battery on a spouse or cohabitant, shooting a gun into an occupied house, driving under the influence, and willful cruelty to a child just for kicks? Or how about this guy, Delfino Aguilar Martinez, who was convicted of Mexico, who was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily harm? She asserts that 100,000 immigrants have been detained and that over half have no criminal record. Honey, their crime is being in this country illegally, and the left can't seem to get that shit through their heads. People reporting for immigration hearings have been arrested, she says. Yeah, okay, so what? Are they here illegally or undocumented, as the left prefers? Guess what? They're subject to arrest. Oh, and pity the poor illegal immigrant just looking for a job at the local Home Depot. She says that to Trump, every undocumented immigrant is illegal. Guess what? Trump happens to be right, you stupid dope. She then brings up the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, who she describes as a legal resident. He's legal in the sense an immigration judge under Biden, after being deported for entering the country illegally, placed a stay on that order. Why? Because the poor, hard-working, just regular old Maryland dad feared retribution from a rival gang if he was returned to El Salvador. That's an admission. He's a member of a gang, allegedly MS-13 in this case. And now he's back here facing human trafficking charges in Tennessee. Not liberal Maryland and not liberal Washington, D.C. He should have wished to remain in El Salvador, because guess what's going to happen? If he's found guilty, one of two things. He'll serve a prison sentence here and then be deported back to El Salvador. Or he'll simply be returned to El Salvador. This is the person Pequeño is defending. Then she goes into a defense of due process, and apparently Republicans and those who voted for Trump suddenly hate due process. Now, I'm not going to try out the lack of due process for the victims of illegal immigrants through murder, DUIs, etc., or the lack of due process for the victims of rape or pedophilia at the hands of an illegal immigrant. That's whataboutism. This country affords perhaps the most due process to anyone, citizen or non-citizen alike, than any other country in the world. Can Americans riot in the streets of Mexico City waving an American flag, chanting death to Mexico, maybe even burning the Mexican flag, while pelting Mexican police officers with concrete? So here's the thing. Those 2,000 National Guard and 700 Marines are in LA to protect federal property and law enforcement personnel. Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass said they can handle the situation. Okay, fine, let them. When it comes to state or city property or a business in Los Angeles, and when a cop from LA gets killed or ends up in a coma because a brick hit his head, let them ask for more National Guard troops. In the interim, just get the fuck out of the way, okay? Ms. Pequeño asked whether people voted for arresting people like Garcia and that Hamas-loving piece of shit, Mahmoud Khalil. I'll ask her, is she for unsecure borders and allowing millions of, and I'll use her words, undocumented immigrants into this country? Does she think this country should not keep out the scum of the earth? See how that works in any other country in the world. Maybe then she'll see the light, but I kind of doubt it. So, hell yeah, I voted for this, and I still support it. And that's it. Have a great day, and a more pleasant tomorrow.